In the early years of the Cold War, the world's major powers were locked in a technological race unlike anything seen before. Nuclear weapons were one threat, long-range bombers were another, but above all, nations were battling for dominance in the skies, the place where future wars would be won or lost. And during this frantic competition, Britain unveiled a jet so advanced, so fast, and so capable that it sent genuine shockwaves through American military circles. It was the kind of aircraft the United States expected from itself, not from a nation still recovering from the financial and industrial devastation of the Second World War. Yet here it was, a British jet that, on paper and in the air, threatened to outperform the best American designs of the era. This aircraft was the English Electric Lightning, a machine built with such radical focus and such uncompromising engineering that it became one of the world's fastest interceptors. From the moment it first took to the skies, American analysts realized something uncomfortable. Britain, a country whose resources were stretched thin, had produced a fighter so blisteringly quick that it could outrun, outclimb, and out-accelerate almost anything the United States had in service. And although the Lightning had its flaws, the raw performance numbers were undeniable. The story began in the 1940s, when British engineers predicted that future wars would require interceptors capable of reaching enemy bombers before they came close to British airspace. The RAF wanted a fighter that could launch, climb almost straight up, and reach speeds no piston engine aircraft could dream of. English Electric accepted the challenge, and what they eventually produced was a plane that looked like nothing else in the sky. Its engines were stacked vertically, one over the other, allowing an incredibly narrow fuselage that sliced through the air with almost surgical precision. The design was unconventional, yet brilliantly effective. Everything about the Lightning existed for one purpose: speed. From the moment early prototypes began to fly, the aircraft displayed capabilities far beyond expectations. Test pilots reported climb rates so extreme they bordered on surreal. The Lightning could go from the runway to 40,000 feet in under 3 minutes, shooting upward like a missile rather than a conventional fighter. It could break Mach 2 with alarming ease. And once at altitude, it turned the sky into its personal racetrack, swallowing miles of airspace in seconds. American observers were stunned. Few US jets at the time could match the Lightning's raw acceleration. Even fewer could hope to replicate its climb performance. In a world where speed meant survival, the British had built something extraordinary. But with this extraordinary speed came extraordinary limitations. The Lightning was never designed as a multi-role aircraft. It couldn't carry heavy bomb loads, long-range missiles, or large fuel reserves, and its fuel consumption was notoriously severe. A pilot could take off, accelerate to full power, and find half his fuel gone before he even reached cruising altitude. On training flights, Lightnings sometimes had enough endurance for only 20 to 30 minutes of actual flying. American fighters had more range, more weapons, and more versatility. But none of that erased the fact that, in a pure sprint, the Lightning was nearly unbeatable. Still, the Americans respected it. At joint exercises, US pilots often joked that if a Lightning was pointed upward, you'd never catch it. They weren't entirely joking. Accelerating through Mach 1.5 in a climb was something almost no fighter of the era could manage safely, yet the Lightning did it routinely. Even decades later, retired American pilots admitted privately that the jet was a machine they wished they had the chance to fly. It earned that kind of admiration. Despite its performance, the Lightning's career was shaped by political realities. Britain simply did not have the resources to develop it into the multi-role platform that modern military thinking required. While the US produced fighters that could bomb, intercept, scout, and dogfight, the Lightning could do only one job: intercept high-speed Soviet aircraft. It did that job exceptionally well, but its narrow role meant that as aviation evolved, the Lightning struggled to evolve with it. New US jets, like the F-4 Phantom, brought long-range radar, multiple crew members, and far greater operational flexibility. The Lightning, although still faster in many performance aspects, began to look like a specialist from another era. Even so, the RAF loved it. Pilots admired the honesty of the machine. If you told it to climb, it climbed. If you told it to accelerate, it responded instantly. There was no hesitation, no sluggishness, no compromise. The aircraft demanded skill. It punished careless flying. But treated with respect, it was capable of maneuvers that pushed the limits of aviation physics. Some pilots described the experience as controlling a controlled explosion. Others said that flying the Lightning felt less like piloting a jet and more like steering a rocket. As time moved on, reality caught up with the program. Britain refocused its defence priorities. The RAF needed aircraft that could fight wars, not just perform intercepts. Eventually, the Lightning was retired, replaced by more flexible NATO-aligned fighters. But its reputation never faded. Even today, aviation enthusiasts describe it as Britain's last true pure interceptor, a machine built without compromise, designed to reach incredible heights at incredible speed, and engineered during a period where limits existed simply to be broken. What made the Lightning so remarkable was not just what it achieved, but what it represented. In an era where Britain's global military influence was shrinking, this jet served as proof that the country could still produce something world-class, something rival nations genuinely respected, even feared. American military documents from the era describe the aircraft with a tone of reluctant admiration. They acknowledged its shortcomings, yes, but they also recognized its unmatched strengths. The Lightning, they admitted, could reach altitudes and speeds faster than many US fighters could safely attempt. And that is why the English Electric Lightning remains one of the most iconic jets ever built. Not because it was perfect, or because it won wars, or because it shaped future designs, but because it stood as a defiant reminder of what British engineering could accomplish when ambition was allowed to run free. It scared the Americans not because they feared the aircraft itself, but because it proved that even in a changing world, Britain could still build something truly extraordinary.